My fiancé and my own brother have hated me for 10 years. They are convinced I bullied the innocent girl they both adored, and at my own engagement party, they exposed my so-called crimes to the world. She's nothing but a bully and a disgrace. In the live-streamed video, Little White Flower smiled through her tears. I don't blame her anymore. Looking back, the light boat has already passed countless mountains. She became an overnight sensation, yet I was condemned by all, had acid thrown on me by an extremist fan, and in despair, I took her down with me. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to my senior year of high school. Little White Flower was pouring water over her own head while smiling and asking me, "Have you figured out how you're going to apologize to me?" I lost it right then and there, grabbed her by the hair, dragged her into the bathroom, and shoved her head into the toilet. "Let me show you what real bullying looks like. With a mouth that filthy, you'd better wash it out before you go snitching." The last memory from my past life, it was the excruciating, deathly pain of concentrated sulfuric acid splashing into my eyes. Enduring immense agony, I spotted Linjo, shielded behind my brother, through my blurred vision. Then I grabbed a cake knife, charged forward, and plunged it into her chest. "Let's go to hell together." I opened my eyes again. The startlingly clear sight before me left me stunned for a couple of seconds. It wasn't until I saw Linjo, looking much younger, not far away. She was wearing a faded school uniform, turning on the faucet and pouring water over her own head. As she did it, she smiled and asked me, "Guess who they'll believe, me or you?" It all clicked for me in an instant. So this was the day, the beginning of when I was accused of bullying her in my past life. Seeing me standing there dumbfounded, Linjo's smile deepened. "Figured out how you're going to apologize to me yet, princess?" Ah, old grudges and fresh hatred welled up inside me. I rushed over, grabbed her by the hair, and dragged her into the bathroom. Amid her sudden, piercing shrieks, I shoved her entire face into the toilet bowl. "You think splashing a little cold water is enough to frame me? Come here, let me show you what real bullying looks like." Linjo thrashed like a madman, his arms flailing as if powered by motors, yet he still couldn't break free from my grip. He could only bury his face in the filthy water, his mouth opening to emit muffled sounds. "Lu Xinqi, let me go." Glug, ugh. I threw my head back and laughed. "Watch your filthy mouth. You'd better clean it up before you go tattling." Whether this is a return to the past or a post-death hallucination, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go completely berserk. In my past life, I died on the very day I reached the peak of my life. That day, I had just won my third Best Actress award, dressed in a haute couture gown. I stood beside my childhood sweetheart and fiancé, Jiang Tian, at our grand, live-streamed engagement ceremony. Then, he announced to everyone, "I will never marry a bully who tormented classmates back in high school." All I could do was stare back at him in utter disbelief. Linjo stepped out from below the stage with tears in her eyes. She looked up and smiled. "Lu Xinqi, do you remember me? I'm Linjo, the one you bullied for 10 years. You probably never imagined that one day I would stand on equal footing with you, but it's okay, I don't blame you anymore." Looking back, the light boat has long passed countless mountains, broadcast live across the entire internet. She instantly went viral. Before I could even react, the horde of reporters my brother and Jiang Tian had arranged came rushing in and surrounded me completely. "Miss Lu, I hear you're still bullying newcomers on set. Someone photographed you visiting the gynecologist recently. Did you catch something from your promiscuous lifestyle?" A deranged fan charged from the crowd and threw acid in my face, screaming, "You whore, die." The liquid hit me, an overwhelming, searing pain clinging to my face. My vision never cleared again. The fall from heaven to hell happened in the blink of an eye. Coming to my senses, I let go. I watched as Linjo collapsed to the ground, her breath faint as a wisp of smoke. That innocent, pure little face was smeared with filth. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Go on, cry, make a scene. Go tell the whole world I bullied you with that face of yours. Go on." The final syllable suddenly rose sharply, recalling the agony of having my features dissolved by sulfuric acid in a past life. I stomped on her face twice more with all my strength. Only then did I turn and walk away. Downstairs by the school building, my deskmate, Su Lan, was waiting for me. "Gym class started ages ago. What were you doing up there?" I said nonchalantly. "Oh, just gave the new kid a little taste of bullying." She turned her head in shock. "What?" I said. "Lu Sun said, when the whole world thinks you're a bully, you'd better be one." "Did Lu Sun really say that?" "It doesn't matter." As she and I walked to the edge of the sports field, we ran right into Jiang Tian. He wasn't in my class, but everyone in school knew he was my childhood sweetheart. "Lu Xinqi." Jiang Tian's gaze slid past my face, landing faintly somewhere behind me. "Xinxin, why are you so late? Oh, by the way, I heard there's a new transfer student in your class." In my past life, every time Linjo threw mud at my name, he would always make me apologize to Linjo and sweep the whole thing under the rug. Seemed to be on my side. Yet, With just a few words, they pinned the blame for bullying squarely on me. At that thought, I raised my hand and slapped him without warning. What? Su Lan was stunned once more. Jiang Tian's expression remained unchanged. Only his eyes turned slightly colder for a moment before he acted as if he hadn't noticed. She lowered her head affectionately and nuzzled my cheek. What's wrong, Xin? Are you feeling down? In my past life, I didn't find out until much later. When Jiang Tian was a child, his mother abandoned him at an amusement park, after which he was taken in by an orphanage for a while. There, he met a bright and cheerful little girl. She shared a bed with him and gave him a piece of candy. She was the only light in his life. That light was Lin Jiao. Moreover, Jiang Tian recognized her on the very first day she transferred to the school. He always believed Lin Jiao's claim that I bullied her, and he hated me to the core. Yet, constrained by his status as an illegitimate child, he had no choice but to swallow his pride and curry favor with me, because he needed to secure his footing within the family by marrying me. With that thought, I spoke up. Let's break up. His pupils suddenly contracted. Why? Give me a reason, Xin. I pulled out a tissue and wiped my cheek where he had touched it, over and over. I don't want to talk to the son of a homewrecker. I think it's disgusting. Is that reason enough for you? After we left, Su Lan cautiously asked me if I was possessed. I wasn't the least bit surprised she would ask me that. Back in high school, my feelings for Jiang Tian were so direct and fervent. I'd wait for him after school every day to walk home together, and I'd bake him cookies, smiling as I handed them over even with my hands covered in burns. My favoritism was so obvious, the whole world could see it. But things are different now. Lu Xinqi, who had just entered her final year of high school, was dead. The person standing here now is Niuhuru Xinqi, reborn from death. Lin Jiao didn't show up again for the entire day. I knew her face was her greatest source of pride. I won't make a move unless I can make the most of it. I'm waiting patiently. Saturday arrived quickly, my 18th birthday. My parents had said early on that they would throw a grand dinner party to celebrate my coming of age. Something urgent came up at the office, so they'll be running a bit late. The crystal chandelier glittered brilliantly. I walked down the spiral staircase to the living room. Wearing a custom-made evening dress, I spotted my brother, Lu Xinting, from a distance, dressed in a sharp suit. He called to me with an impassive expression. Lu Xinqi, come here. I walked over. I pretended not to notice the deep, penetrating gaze of Jiang Tian behind him, nor Lin Jiao, who looked on the verge of tears. I smiled sweetly. What did you call me for, brother? Did you get me a present? Lu Xinting gave me a cold stare for a moment before speaking. Bullying classmates, insulting friends. Lu Xinqi, is this what the Lu family taught you? He didn't lower his voice in the slightest as he spoke. Instantly, the gazes of every guest in the room turned in this direction. What are you talking about, brother? I don't understand. I looked at Lin Jiao and tilted my head. Who did I insult? And when did I bully a classmate? I don't even know her. It's too late for defiance now. You must face the consequences for your actions. With our parents away today, I'll be the one to discipline you. As he spoke, Lu Xinting drew a ruler from the antique shelf beside him. He looked at me and said sternly, word by word, get on your knees. In the vast banquet hall, countless eyes turned their gaze, eager for a spectacle. What? Bullying a classmate? The Lu family's daughter would stoop to that? Well, she was raised spoiled rotten. It's only natural she can't stand anyone outshining her. Thankfully, her brother upheld justice and didn't play favorites under Lin Jiao's smug and provocative gaze. I straightened my back. I smiled and let the profanities fly. What kind of nonsense are you spouting, brother? Anyone who knows you would think you're Lu Xinting, but to those who don't, it's like some ghost from the Qing dynasty has possessed you. In my life, I only kneel to the deceased and my ancestors. I tilted my head, looking him up and down for a moment, then gave a nasty smile. Tell you what, go find a building to jump off right now, and I'll kneel down and kowtow 3 times to send you off. Lu Xinting's face suddenly darkened. Behind him, Lin Jiao spoke in a feigned tone. Lu, I know you don't like me, but you can bully me all you want. How could you speak to your own brother like that? Her eyes widened, tears welling up as she deliberately put on a childlike, innocent, and naive expression. Jiang Tian, standing nearby, saw this, and an inexplicable shadow of darkness flickered in his eyes. Then, he spoke in a low voice. Xin, if you've done something wrong, just admit it and apologize. There's no need to. I also widened my eyes and said with frustration, sorry, I don't understand barking. Could you repeat that in human language? Enough. Lu Xinting snapped sharply. Lu Xinqi, you're a young lady. Do you have any sense of shame? Who taught you to speak with such foul language and behave with such utter lack of decorum? He's just the same as before, never believing a word I say. Instead, with intense prejudice, you'd nail me to the pillar of shame again and again. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, mimicking his cold sneer. Mom and Dad were always busy, never had time for me. Care to guess who taught me? It was you, of course, my dear brother. In my past life, I was always both afraid of and in love with Lu Xingting. He was several years older than me, and in my heart, he was always an authoritative older brother. When I was little, my parents were busy with company affairs, so he was the one who took care of me. If I made even the slightest mistake, I would get my palms struck with a ruler and be punished by him with no dinner. When I brought home the stray, curly-haired puppy I'd found, he wouldn't let the housekeeper open the door for me. It's filthy, we don't welcome that sort of thing in this house. So, feeling helpless, I just sat on the front steps holding the puppy all night long. I was still very young back then. I always thought that was just his personality, that he could never learn the gentle, doting way other brothers treat their little sisters, until Lin Jiu came along. That's when I realized it wasn't that my brother didn't know how to be tender, it's just that the person in question isn't me. I've seen him sitting in the car, handing Lin Jiu a warm glass of milk, ruffling her hair and saying, "Make sure you eat 3 meals a day. If you're short on money, I'm here." I've also seen Lin Jiu pick up a skinny stray cat in the rain, while he held an umbrella over her and softly asked, "Do you want to keep it drunk?" Lin Jiu clutched at his sleeve, babbling nonsense. He listened patiently, his eyes filled with nothing but tenderness. In my past life, I was trapped in a lie called love. I was tormented by why my brother didn't love me, and why my fiancé never took my side. It wasn't until I lived a second life that the scales finally fell from my eyes. I am my own person. I don't need love to survive. The birthday dinner ended on a sour note. My parents finally returned just as I was standing my ground against Lu Xingting. They politely expressed their thanks and saw the full hall of guests out. Lin Jiu tried to pull the same old trick in front of my mother, playing the victim again, but was shut down with a single, pointed smile. "I'm sorry, but this is a family matter for the Lu family. We'll handle it ourselves. Please leave." Lin Jiu choked up, shot Lu Xingting a tearful glance, and only then turned to leave. Once it was just me and Lu Xingting left in the house, my father finally spoke up with an air of authority. "All right, now tell me what really happened." Before Lu Xingting could get a word in, I cut in. "A while ago, a new transfer student came to our school. On her very first day, she went crazy and poured water over her own head, then insisted it was me who did it, accusing me of bullying her. It was only later that I found out this person was the impoverished student my brother had been sponsoring all along, named Lin Jiu." Lu Xingting, who was sitting on the sofa, suddenly looked up at me, his eyes filled with shock. "Surprised, aren't you, brother? I've discovered your little secret affair so early on." Pressing my reddened eyes, my voice choked with emotion. "I don't really blame her. It's just a birthday, I can do without it. I'm just hurt. Why doesn't my brother believe me? It's not like Lin Jiu is the only one in this world who can play the innocent victim." With my voice trembling on the verge of tears, Dad laid down the law. "All right, that's enough. No more of this. No matter who started it, if this gets out, if word spreads, it won't reflect well on any of you. This ends here." Back at school, I started openly bullying Lin Jiu. I poured ink into her desk drawer and loudly mocked her when she recited the text in her accented English. I tore up her physics exam paper and scattered the pieces over her head. "Go on, keep running to tell on me," I said with a laugh. "Isn't that your specialty?" A scrap of paper drifted down slowly from her hair. She looked at me, a flash of deep-seated venom in her eyes. In the end, though, trembling and in tears, she apologized to me. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Lu. If I've done anything to upset you, I apologize right now. I'll fix it." "Okay, your very existence upsets me." I raised an eyebrow in surprise. "And how exactly do you plan to fix it?" "By dropping dead right now." She was left speechless, gaping without a word. In the end, all I could do was keep crying. For the first time, I realized how satisfying it felt to be the bad girl. "Of course, she told the teacher too. The teacher called me to the office." Through tears, I recounted what happened at the birthday dinner and finally produced a medical diagnosis. That day, because of her lies, my brother humiliated me in front of everyone. I cry every time I think about it, and I even wake up screaming from nightmares. I'm still seeing a therapist and taking medication. The doctor says I have severe depression. In the end, the teacher had to comfort me instead. It's obvious to everyone that I don't like Lin Jiu. Su Lan was puzzled. "Why are you so against her? What has she ever done wrong?" I looked up at her and smiled. "Can't it just be because I'm a terrible person who looks down on the new girl from a poor family, just because my own family is rich?" "Yeah, right." She shot me a glare. "If you were really that kind of person, why wouldn't you bully me? My family is way poorer than hers. On the very first day we became friends, you bought all my stationery for the entire 3 years of high school. Believing you'd bully a classmate is about as likely as me being Empress Wu Zetian. I understand that much, at least. Yeah, that much is obvious to anyone, but my brother and the person I like just don't get it." A faint smile touched my lips, but my eyes remained utterly devoid of warmth. The school's centennial celebration ceremony was just 1 month away. In her past life, Lin Jiu, arranged by Lu Xingting and Jiang Tian, performed a piano solo at that very anniversary gala. This performance caught the eye of a visiting special admissions officer, earning her the sole spot for a special admission. What about me? I started learning dance at 4 and practiced for over a decade. I had even prepared a classical dance piece, but then Jiang Tian found me. He held me in the campus at sunset and whispered, "Do you have to go dance, sweetheart? I don't want all those people to see how beautiful you look. I'd get jealous. Just dance for me alone." Okay, I was such an idiot back then. I was even smug about it, thinking it was his way of showing he cared. So on the day of the performance, I really didn't go. Right there in the empty dance studio, I danced for him, over and over again. As the song ended, a thunderous roar of cheers echoed from the distant auditorium. Hearing it, Jiang Tian suddenly broke into a smile. He was always gentle and quiet around me, his smile so faint and soft, as if veiled by a mist. It was the first time I had seen his emotions fluctuate so visibly, so I stopped dancing and asked, a bit foolishly, "Are you happy?" He paused for a moment. Yes, back then, I thought he was happy because I was dancing for him alone. I only found out much later, his happiness was because Lin Jiu's performance was a great success. The only light in his life now had a bright and brilliant future. I submitted the dance program I had prepared long ago. This time, however, it wasn't a solo. I gathered all the girls in the class who were interested in performing, and we rehearsed a group classical dance. I paid out of my own pocket to hire an instructor for everyone, bought the most expensive costumes, and commissioned the best props. In comparison, Lin Jiu's piano solo in the white dress seemed far too simplistic. Who knows what she was crying and complaining about in front of Lu Xingting that night. On my way home from school, he stopped me in the garden. "Lu Xingqi," my brother stared at me with an expressionless face. "For the school anniversary performance, drop your act," I chuckled. "Lu Xingting, what the hell are you barking about now? Don't think for a second I'm asking for your opinion." A flicker of icy mockery surfaced in Lu Xingting's eyes. "If you insist on going, you'll bear the consequences." I halted, staring into his frigid gaze. "Brother, has your delicate little flower, after over a decade of piano lessons, no confidence in winning against me on the same stage? What a useless piece of trash." Just a few days before the school anniversary gala, Jiang Tian found me. "Sweetheart, what happened last time was my fault. But you blocked all my contact info and refused to see me. I don't know what's really going on. Xin. Do you have some misunderstanding about me, or have you fallen for someone else?" As he uttered those final words, a distinct note of pain even crept into his voice. "But you told me yourself, you said you would always like me the most." A surge of anger, mixed with a sharp, stabbing pain, suddenly welled up in his heart. I genuinely loved him for many years. He said he didn't like me filming kiss scenes, so I actually turned down many offers from famous directors because of it. He said Lin Jiu had a difficult background and was always bullied in the orphanage, so I shouldn't hold it against her. So I forgave her offenses again and again. All I ever wanted was to exchange sincerity for sincerity, yet in return, all I received was a decade of their relentless slander and hatred. In that moment, I couldn't even be bothered to keep up appearances anymore. I reached out, grabbed Jiang Tian by the collar, and shoved him hard against the tree trunk behind him. He gasped in pain, but before he could utter a word, I slapped him across the face. I held nothing back. His pale, cold-toned face immediately flushed red and swollen. I leaned in close and said, word by word, "I already know you and Lin Jiu have known each other for a long time. Don't you like her? Why are you putting on this act of devotion in front of me? You want to string me along and use me, while also simping for your little innocent flower on the side. You're just as despicable as your homewrecker of a mother." As the last word left his lips, a storm of emotion gathered in his eyes, but not another word could he utter. I scoffed, released him, and turned to leave without a backward glance. That night, I had a dream. I had a rare dream about my past life, what happened after I died. After the cake knife plunged into Lin Jiu's chest, I died in excruciating agony. She was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Outside the hospital room, Jiang Tian grabbed Lu Xingting and demanded, "You promised you would arrange everything, that you would protect her." Lu Xingting brushed his hand away and said coldly, "I've already agreed to share her with you. You're just a bastard, without my help. Do you really think you can control the Lu family? Don't push your luck." Jiang Tian staggered back a few steps and retorted, "Was it you who helped me?" "Clearly, it was." The words were cut off abruptly, mid-sentence. Lu Xingting sneered, "Yes, it was my sister who helped you, but she's dead now. The person who threw sulfuric acid on her. You were the One who personally contacted and arranged it. Have you forgotten? Jiang Tian stood there in silence. The red light above the emergency room door was flashing. Moments later, Lin Jiu was wheeled out, the doctor said. The patient is still not out of the woods. Jiang Tian's gaze swept over her pale, bloodless face and trembled. Then I spoke calmly. I haven't forgotten, and I've never regretted it. I jolted awake from the dream, stumbled into the bathroom, and retched over the toilet for a long time. I straightened up, braced myself against the counter, and saw my reflection in the mirror. My eyes, bloodshot and raw, were filled with pure hatred. No regrets, I muttered to myself. It's fine. In this lifetime, you will be the one filled with regret. You'll regret ever being born. Just you wait. The day of the school anniversary gala arrived. I ran into Lin Jiu by the school's artificial lake. She was wearing a subtly luxurious silver cocktail dress, and a new, expensive diamond necklace adorned her neck. I know perfectly well that Lu Xingting most likely bought it to console her. Lu Xingqi, do you really think your status as the Lu family's precious daughter will protect you forever after bullying me for so long? Did you truly believe I wouldn't fight back? I will make you pay 1,000 times over. So what if you know about Jiang Tian and me? He loves me, and your brother only loves me too. Someone like you will never be loved by anyone. She went on and on with a whole tirade. I just smiled and gave her a single line in return. How's the toilet water taste? Then, seeing her expression shift dramatically, I turned and walked away. In the evening, the fiery sunset spread inch by inch across the horizon. I, along with a group of girls from the dance team, changed into our costumes and hurried from the dance studio to the backstage, holding up the hems of our skirts. Halfway there, I realized I had forgotten the prop I had prepared for the final curtain call. Did I leave it in the dance studio? I thought about it carefully and decided to go back and look. Su Lan asked, do you want me to come with you? It's fine, it's not heavy. I can carry it by myself, I said with a smile. Go get your makeup done backstage first, then find the set designer to arrange the order of our props. The vast multi-purpose building was eerily empty. Holding up the beautiful, gilded hem of my dress, I strode up the stairs, but just as I was about to reach the floor with the dance studio, I stopped. A person stood on the steps, just a few paces away. The golden red light of the sunset streamed through the window, illuminating only a small part of his face. Most of his face was shrouded in shadow, his eyes as deep and fathomless as a whirlpool in the ocean's depths. Jiang Tian, he spoke in a low voice, his tone heavy like a storm about to break. Xin, what are you doing? None of your damn business. Get lost. I stepped past him and headed up the stairs. A tremendous force suddenly slammed into my shoulder. My mind went blank for a second. By the time I realized what was happening, I felt weightless, already toppling backward. Behind me was a long, steep flight of stairs. My back hit the ground as I tumbled heavily down the steps. Amidst the overwhelming pain, I landed beside the iron railing, a faint crackling sound almost audible from the bones in my ankle. Jiang Tian descended the steps one by one and came to a stop beside me. He was still looking at me with those same calm, sorrowful eyes when he spoke. His voice was utterly cold. Xin, don't blame me. You've had everything since the day you were born. Even if you miss this chance, there are many other paths you can take. But Ajo is not like you. She had done her absolute best within her power. With that, he grabbed my already sprained ankle and slammed my shin hard against the iron railing beside us. The scene from my dream suddenly flashed into my mind. He stood outside the hospital room, alongside my brother, his gaze, brimming with tender affection, followed Lin Jiu as she was wheeled out of the emergency room. Yet, when my name was mentioned, his voice turned utterly indifferent. I've never regretted it. The 15 best years of my life, the most fervent and sincere love. To think it was tied to someone like this. I suddenly burst out laughing, wrenching my leg free from his grasp just before he could slam it against the railing. Pathetic. The pain from my sprained ankle was so sharp it stole my breath. But before Jiang Tian could react, I seized his hair and slammed his head against the railing. You bastard, dream on if you think you can hurt me again. Jiang Tian's head hit the iron railing with a heavy, resounding thud. His forehead struck the sharp corner, and bright red blood immediately gushed out. It streamed down his cheek, dripping one by one onto his clothes. Xin, I caught my breath, released my grip on his hair, and stood up. A continuous, throbbing pain radiated from the sprained ankle, but it didn't matter. I looked down into his pain-glazed eyes and slowly began to smile. How touching, my dear young master, so willing to sacrifice yourself to ruin me here, all to secure a future for your little white lotus. So this is Lu Xingting's warning to me. Had you all already agreed to share her at this point? Absolutely disgusting. I lifted the hem of my skirt and wiped it against the blood on his face, over and over, until the pale fabric was stained in a mottled pattern. Then I left him there on the ground and, under the darkening sky, ran into the grand auditorium. From a distance, the melodious sound of a piano drifted out from the auditorium as expected. Lin Jiu was playing the very same piece from her past life, Debussy's Clair de Lune. She sat before the pure white piano on the stage, dressed in a silver evening gown. The stage was plunged into darkness, save for a single spotlight that fell upon her. Like the only spark struck a light in the dead of night, just like in a past life, at my own engagement party, when she climbed to success by trampling over me. She was dazzlingly, painfully beautiful. I ran down the narrow aisle between the 2 rows of seats. I pushed past the security guards and the host who tried to stop me. I vaulted onto the stage, standing in the single spotlight. I kicked Lin Jiu over and smashed my fist onto the piano. Under her gaze, frozen in utter disbelief, I began to lose it. Play, play, play. I'll give you something to play. You sent your little lapdog to mess with me, and now you have the nerve to sit there playing your damn piano. Of course I know. The teacher from the special admissions office, who had been invited by Lu Xingting, was sitting in the audience at that very moment. In her past life, after listening to Lin Jiu's performance of Moonlight, he contacted her right after the performance, asking if she would accept the sole, specially approved admission spot. Lin Jiu agreed. This was merely the first step on her bright and promising path. Later, through Lu Xingting's meticulous arrangements, she was taken on as the final disciple by a true maestro of the music world at the school. For a film role, I had to portray a gifted teenage pianist with autism. My agent arranged for me to study under that master, but in the brief moment I crossed paths with Lin Jiu that evening, when I returned home, Lu Xingting was waiting for me at my door. He looked at me with disgust. Lu Xingqi, will you ever stop? Just because you're inferior to Ajiu in every way, you hate her so much that you'd even tear up the music score she painstakingly copied. For the teacher, what a vile creature. I was stunned for a few seconds. When it finally sank in, my first instinct was to defend myself. He cut me off with a wave of his hand. Nothing but lies. I don't believe a single word of your excuses. Amidst the rising clamor from the audience, I heard someone scream, blood. Look at all the blood on her dress. The hem of her dress was a mottled mess of blood and dust. Her hair was disheveled, and her ankle was badly swollen. Every detail of my appearance served to confirm the truth of my words. Clutching the piano bench, Lin Jiu stumbled to her feet. The look she shot me churned with venomous hatred for a moment before settling back into her usual facade of fragile innocence. I don't know what you're talking about, Lu. There must be some misunderstanding, but this is my performance. Out of respect for the audience, you really shouldn't have rushed up here so recklessly. Lu Xingting shot up from his seat in the audience, his voice thundering with rage as he berated me. Lu Xingqi, have you lost your mind? I ignored him completely, brushed past Lin Jiu, and settled onto the piano bench. I began to play Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. In my past life, I learned to play for real in the film, so I wouldn't need a hand double. I spent a solid 3 months learning this piece. I wouldn't call myself a master, but it's more than enough for a scene like this. The impassioned piano notes, accompanied by a faint electrical hum, reverberated through the vast, empty dome of the auditorium. As the final notes of fate faded, I turned and fixed her with a piercing stare, my voice sharp and deliberate. Ruining my birthday party, driving a wedge between my brother and me, spreading lies about me in front of my family and friends. Those are trivial matters. I'll settle those scores in my own way. But you had Jiang Tian push me down the stairs, trying to break my leg, all to keep me off the stage. I paused, watching the color drain from her face, and let out a scornful laugh. The piano is your pride and joy. Don't you even have the confidence to compete with me on the same stage and win? Chaos erupted both on and off the stage. Finally, the teacher in charge of the school anniversary performance escorted Lin Jiu and me off the stage. The host came up to smooth things over. The next performance is our group classical dance. I passed by the girls participating in the show backstage. Su Lan rushed over with tears in her eyes and grabbed my hand. You're hurt, aren't you? I should have gone with you. I'm fine. I smiled, patted her head, and comforted her. Go on and perform. You've rehearsed for so long. Give yourself a performance you can be proud of. The first place winner of the school anniversary performance will receive a prize of 100,000 yuan. From the very beginning, this dance was never choreographed for me. Watching them walk onto the stage, a weight lifted from my mind. Then, as a wave of intense pain and exhaustion washed over me, I closed my eyes. Even my consciousness sank into darkness. I woke up in the hospital that night. Lu Xingting burst into the hospital room. You're insane, Lu Xingqi. You're a complete lunatic. He wanted to follow the plan step by step, to gradually elevate his beloved to a dazzling, radiant position. It's like personally nurturing a flower from bud to full bloom, which brings immense satisfaction. But brother, how could I ever give you such an opportunity? What now, brother? Your little white lotus didn't even finish her piece. and your plot to break my legs has been exposed. She'll never get into the school she wanted. Something suddenly came back to me. Oh, right, your accomplice, Jeon Tion, is still lying on the floor in the main building. If you have a moment, don't forget to send him to the hospital. I clutched the corner of the quilt and laughed, but the movement tugged at the wound in my ankle, twisting my features in pain. In the reflection of his pupils, I saw what I looked like now, like a raving lunatic, or perhaps, ever since the day I died in my past life, I've already been a madman. Lu Xingting's facial muscles twitched slightly, a flash of fury vanishing from his eyes, but when looked at again, he had already resumed his usual aloof and superior demeanor. So what, Lu Xingqi? Even though Lin Jiu's performance failed, you still didn't get to dance. Not only that, but your whole deranged episode was captured perfectly by the camera right there. This time, you can't just wave a fake medical certificate and expect to get away with it. The school has already contacted our parents. They're preparing to expel you. Ha, 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 ha. I laughed. Suspension. You think I care about that? Lu Xingting, don't forget, I'm a child of the Lu family, just like you. As Jeon Tion said, if this path is closed, I have countless others to walk. From the very beginning, my goal has been singular: to tear down that delicate little flower, Lin Jiu. That's all. The very thing she falsely accused me of in my past life, I'll simply make them all come true. Every path she walked in her past life, I will block them all, one by one. The score between us isn't settled yet. Lin Jiu, I caused a huge scene at the school anniversary ceremony in front of everyone, and even hit Jeon Tion and Lin Jiu. Along with the previous incidents of bullying Lin Jiu at school, it was all leaked online. It sparked quite a media storm. The conflict between the wealthy heiress and the impoverished girl, whether 10 years ago or 10 years later, carries enough sensational appeal. The difference is this time, it was because of my crystal clear speech on stage, a sorry sight, and that rendition of Fate, filled with extreme rage and madness. Quite a few people took my side. It's not necessarily a case of a rich girl bullying someone poor, is it? Listening to her play, she doesn't seem like that kind of person. LMAO, are you a paid troll or something? Since when can you tell fortunes with a zither? Seriously, just look at her. Her ankle is swollen like a loaf of bread, and she's covered in blood. What kind of bully ends up in that state themselves? Putting everything else aside, this girl's mental state is on another level, like 8 versions ahead of our time. In the end, Su Lan and the other girls who danced with me went off to argue with netizens. Lu Xingqi is nothing like what you're saying. It was Lin Jiu who started it by provoking her first. The online debate is raging. During my stay in the hospital, I have no idea what Lu Xingting told our father. The day I was discharged from the hospital and came home, he looked at me with an utterly cold demeanor. I leave you to your own devices for a while, and you run completely wild. Since your school won't have you back, you'll go study abroad, lay low for a few years and come back once the dust settles. I'm not the least bit surprised by his attitude, because between me and his son, Lu Xingting, he would always prioritize his own child. When the incident at the engagement banquet in my past life happened, my father was still alive. There's no way Lu Xingting could have kept something that big from him, but he told me nothing, right up until the day I died. Not that it matters anymore. I gave a faint, wry smile. Alright, you've always wanted to study acting. I can reach out to some contacts and help you apply to art schools. No, I suddenly spoke up. I want to study finance, to major in business. The two people in front of me were taken aback for a moment. When my father looked at me again, a new layer of meaning gradually appeared in his eyes. My school application went through quickly. Jeon Tion's injuries were far more severe than mine. He was still in the hospital long after I had recovered. I heard Lin Jiu went to see him and tried to console him, saying it wasn't his fault, that you were the one who was too heartless. Su Lan came to visit me at home, carrying a large bouquet of lily of the valley. Those two are a pair of lunatics. They're the ones who wanted to break your leg. So tell me, where exactly is the heartlessness on your part? I glanced at the flowers in her hand. These must have been expensive. The bonus was for you to keep for yourselves. It's no trouble at all. Everyone knew you were going abroad, so we all chipped in a bit. They specifically asked me to buy these and come see you. She pushed the flowers into my hands, took a deep breath, as if steeling herself for something. My heart is filled with joy. I've always had this feeling that you know something I don't, ever. Since Lin Jiu transferred here that day, something just felt different. I don't know how to explain it. If that doesn't make sense, just forget I said anything. She carefully avoided the bouquet of flowers and came over to give me a gentle hug. Come back soon. When you return home, I'll still be your friend. The night before I left, my mother and I sat on the balcony, a gentle evening breeze passing by. She looked at me, as if wanting to say something but holding back. I took her hand, looked into her eyes, and said, "Mom, don't worry about me. In my past life, my mother died in a car accident while she was alive. No matter how much my father favored him, Lu Xingting wouldn't dare to directly come after me with lethal intent." At this thought, a sudden chill ran through my heart. Later in that past life, Lu Xingting's treatment of Lin Jiu had become almost a mad, obsessive devotion. Could there be more to my mother's sudden car accident than meets the eye? At that thought, a chill ran through me, and I unconsciously tightened my grip on her hand. "Please, you must be careful and keep yourself safe." After a pause, I finally said, "Be careful of Lu Xingting, Xiaoxi. You seem different from before." My mother stared at me blankly and sighed. "It's my failure. You used to be so naive, believing everything anyone said. I told you that boy from the Jiang family was no good, and you argued with me, saying, 'He's nothing like what you're saying.' For your birthday, I tried to get you shares from your father, and you completely undermined me, saying jewelry or a pretty dress would be fine." It made me furious. Back then, I wished you were smarter, more clever, but if the person you are now came at some terrible cost, I'd rather you had stayed naive forever. How could there be a mother in this world who doesn't understand her own child? In my past life, I was a naive and overly trusting person, always choosing to see the best in others. That's why, even after Lin Jiu betrayed me countless times, I never truly sought to destroy her, and that's precisely why I ended up dead at my own engagement party. That won't happen, Mom. Pressing my reddened eyes, I let out a soft, bitter laugh. In this dog-eat-dog world, naive sweethearts are nothing but prey. It's a pity I had to die once to truly understand that. The year I dragged my suitcase abroad, I was 18. Everything around me and all I could perceive was utterly unfamiliar, yet, I felt no fear at all because I knew too much of what was to come. Even if the details were unclear, knowing the key turning points was more than enough for me to accomplish a great deal. The most crucial part is what happens 2 years later. In my past life, the year I turned 20, Lu Xingting received a tip from certain channels. He personally flew to San Francisco and struck a deal with a man named Zhou Hai. That man held the most cutting-edge core technology in his hands. Over the next 5 years, he helped Lu Xingting gradually and completely take control of the Lu family conglomerate. I invested the money my mom gave me in the stock market. Relying on some fragmented memories from my past life, I managed to multiply my seed capital many times over. Then, while at school, I doubled down on my coursework while using that money to invest in several companies that, in my past life, later became Fortune Global 500 giants. At this point, many of them were still in their infancy. During this period, Su Lan contacted me numerous times every week, right on schedule. She'd call me. First, she'd tell me how much the dance team missed me since I left. She also mentioned that with the bonus she received, life had become much easier. A while back, University A held its independent admissions process. Lin Jiu applied, but ended up getting cut during the interview stage. The funny thing is, the teacher who conducted the interview that day was actually at our school's anniversary performance. She said Lin Jiu's performance of Moonlight was muddy and utterly incomparable to your fate. You have no idea how brightly I was smiling, watching Lin Jiu come out and cry her heart out while clinging to that simp. Jiang, the Gaokao results are out. I'm ranked first in my school and third in the entire city. I was in the thick of finals for my double major, completely overwhelmed, when I received this message. Yet, a genuine smile broke through. "Congratulations, I'm really happy. And I'm still waiting for you to come back so we can be friends again." My mom also calls often, updating me on Lu Xingting's recent news and asking how I'm managing on my own, if I have enough money. Then, when I give her a little glimpse into my current situation, she lets out a sigh that's both relieved and resigned. "You're still just a young girl, don't push yourself so hard," she said. "If there's anything you need help with, tell your mom. Don't feel embarrassed." So I gave her Zhou Hai's name and the details I could remember, asking her to look into someone for me. "You absolutely must keep this from my brother." I arrived in San Francisco a full month ahead of Lu Xingting. Outside the school, just as I was about to ask for directions, I suddenly spotted a familiar face on a lawn not far away. It was Zhou Hai, looking several years younger. Standing before him was a tall, slender girl with short hair and glasses, glaring at him coldly. "That's the result of my experiment. Who gave you permission to discuss commercial partnerships with it without my consent?" Zhou Hai forced a smile. "What's yours or mine? Didn't we work on this together? The idea was mine, and I conducted the experiments. You just assisted me for a while, helping to record some data. How does that give you the right to handle my work?" The girl didn't back down an inch. Hearing this, Zhou Hai's expression darkened. "Qin Jilan, don't you dare go too far. We're about to graduate. Am I not thinking about our future? What's the point of you clinging to it? Wouldn't partnering with a reliable company for development yield the greatest benefit?" Let me make this perfectly clear for the last time. That is mine. The girl named Qin Jilan stared at him with icy detachment. I hold the patent. You don't even know the core technology, and you think you can find someone to develop and collaborate. Not a chance. Not as long as I'm alive. And one more thing, we're through. From this moment on, you and I have nothing to do with each other. She turned and walked away without a second glance. Zhou Hai stood rooted to the spot, his gaze fixed on her retreating figure as his eyes gradually turned cold. A flicker of sharp, murderous intent almost flashed within his pupils. I stood there, and suddenly, I understood. In my past life, I once overheard Lin Jiu ask Lu Xingting how he managed to secure and control a talent like Zhou Hai. At that moment, Lu Xingting held her by the poolside and smiled upon hearing this because he needed my help with something. More importantly, in my past life, I had never even heard of someone named Qin Jilan. I managed to arrange a meeting with Qin Jilan. She sat down across from me in a cafe quite far from her university. She got straight to the point. Miss Lu, I know why you're here, but what I have is not for sale. Why not? She hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. For now, it's just a prototype. My hand, bringing the coffee cup to my lips, froze mid-motion. I know you business people care about commercial value, but I don't. I only care about the final result I can achieve and what kind of revolution it can bring to human technology. To me, the work itself is what matters most. I stared at her intently when she spoke of her dreams. Her bare face radiated an indescribable, dazzling brilliance. She was a truly radiant young woman. She was destined to be a great scientist, one whose name would be remembered through the ages. But in her past life, it was the selfish desires of two men. She died in a foreign land like a speck of dust vanishing beneath the wheels of history. Miss Lu, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. I suddenly reached out and blocked her path. Looking at her earnestly, I said, Miss Qin, I am willing to provide all the funding and other resources your research requires. In return, once you have the finished product, you would only need to do me a small favor. Your achievements would remain entirely your own, and history would record them under your name. Is that acceptable? The day I returned to the country, the first snow of the season was falling in a gentle flurry, blanketing the ground. As I walked out of the airport pulling my suitcase, my eyes immediately landed on the billboard beside me. On it, unmistakably, was the impeccably made-up face of Lin Jiu. While I'd been busy overseas these past few years building a company to rival Lu Xingting as he gradually took over the Lu family business, he clearly hadn't been idle either. After failing to get in through special admission and bombing the interview, he still managed to pull strings and get Lin Jiu into film school, where she successfully debuted in the entertainment industry. She really is as consistent as ever. I let out a scornful laugh and got into the car. The car cut through the traffic dusted with a light snow, pulling up right at the foot of the office building. The tender meeting 3 days later was yet another critical juncture. Qin Jilan and I holed up in the office for 3 days, making sure the proposal was polished to perfection. Then, at the public tender, we clinched the deal without a hitch. When the winning bid was announced, I rose from my seat and met the stunned gaze of Lu Xingting beside me. You, Lu Xingqi. A slight smile touched my lips. Long time no see, brother. When it was over, he chased after me and cornered me in the hallway. There was still a trace of disbelief in their tone. Lanqin is your company. After Qin Jilan disappeared, you were the one who hit her, weren't you? You're in quite a hurry, Lu Xingting. I couldn't help but laugh. What do you mean, hidden by me? You don't even know her. Why are you so obsessed with tracking down a living person? Are you planning something illegal? Then, under his suddenly sharp and piercing gaze, I turned and left, laughing heartily. My return to the country this time was incredibly high profile. After securing the contract, I immediately dove into the social scene, networking and meeting many prominent figures in the business world. I hold the exclusive rights to Qin Jilan's patent, and I just snatched a major project from the Lu family. Everyone treats me with the utmost courtesy and friendliness. This is something I never experienced in my past life, not even after winning 3 Best Actress awards. It's true, one must control the means of production. Holding my wine glass, I sighed with emotion. Su Lan beside me turned her head and looked me up and down. It's strange, you were only gone for 4 years, but you seem to have aged 10 years in maturity. That's pretty normal, I guess. At 18, you can afford to be reckless with youth on your side. Look, we've graduated from university now. Before you bare your fangs at someone, you should at least put on a respectable front. With that, I raised my paddle and called out my bid. 2 million. Lin Jiu, sitting in the front row, whipped her head around. Even Jiang Tian, sitting beside her, turned his gaze toward me. The moment our eyes met, he seemed momentarily dazed. My sharp eyes caught the faint scar on his forehead. Suddenly, I found it all rather intriguing. 2.6 million. Coming to his senses, He immediately raised his paddle and began bidding against me. I knew this fully diamond bracelet was what he intended to win at auction as a gift for Linjiao, because in just a few days, it would be Linjiao's birthday. Even after exhausting every means to gain a sliver of influence within the Jiang family's company, his position was a far cry from Lu Xingting's absolute dominance over the Lu Corporation. To vie for favor, one had to resort to other methods of ingratiation. I accompanied him through the bidding, watching as he spent 6 million on that bracelet. I smiled wryly. Their feelings must run deep. Jiang Tian held the bracelet, silently looking at me. After a long pause, he finally called out softly, Xin, stop it, I'm going to be sick. I took an exaggerated step back, sizing him up from head to toe. A moment later, she let out a soft, derisive snort. You're more capable than your homewrecker of a mother. At least you managed to land the position. I'm just curious how you and my brother schedule your time. Do you take turns, you on odd days, him on even, and Sundays together? I didn't lower my voice in the slightest as I said this. Right after the auction ended, a business associate came to me asking what on earth was going on. I put on a pained expression. My brother and that Jiang family's illegitimate son have fallen for the same up-and-coming starlet. Honestly, it's just that. Every family has its hopeless romantic, doesn't it? For true love, you can put up with anything. I didn't stop at just spreading gossip about the three of them. I also brought capital into the film industry to promote a new actress, snatched several of her key roles from Lin Zhou's grasp. Lu Xingting couldn't bear to see his delicate flower suffer such humiliation. He immediately made a move against me. Perfect. That's exactly what I was waiting for. How can you reveal a flaw without making a move? My name suddenly trended on the hot search list alongside the company #launching founder Lu Xingqi school bullying #Lu Xingqi spreads malicious rumors. Lin Zhou was bullied. The video of me smashing Lin Zhou's piano at the school anniversary performance has been circulated again this time. However, the part where I played Fate afterward was edited out. Not only that, they even contacted our senior year classmates to prove that I had indeed bullied Lin Zhou at school. Yeah, Lu Xingqi really had it in for Lin Zhou back then. She'd tear up her test papers, pour ink into her desk drawer, and rallied all the girls in class to ostracize her. In the video, the guy looked absolutely outraged, but since she was a rich heiress, Lin Zhou couldn't do a thing about it. She just had to swallow every bit of humiliation. Later, when things blew up and the school expelled her, she just turned around and went abroad to get a fancy degree. Now, I've transformed into the founder of a cutting-edge company. The company's stock price has been falling for several consecutive days. Several partners have called, tactfully asking me what on earth is going on. I know that if I don't give them a satisfactory answer, the cooperation will come to a halt. Just hold on a little longer. I twirled the pen in my hand, smiling as I danced around their questions. We're all business people here. Everyone knows you shouldn't make a move unless you're absolutely certain. Fortunately, Lin Zhou wasn't as patient as I'd thought. Her hatred for me ran deeper than in our past life. Seeing my reputation take a hit, she seized the moment to make her move. I mentioned this during a live stream. I remember back then, the teacher called on me to read the text aloud. Since I went to primary school in a village, a single teacher had to cover many subjects, and what they taught was essentially mute English. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but when she laughed, that was the first time I realized my pronunciation wasn't standard. For that school anniversary performance, I had prepared very seriously for a long time. I had studied piano for so many years. Her tone seemed calm, but by the end, a glimmer of tears had gathered at the corners of her eyes. It was unclear if the barrage of comments were from curious netizens or hired shills by Lu Xingting, but they were spamming like crazy. Sweetie, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You've already done amazingly well. She's the shameless one. Who does she think she is? Looking down on hardworking ordinary people. Wait, am I the only one who noticed the contradiction? She said her village elementary school didn't even have an English teacher, yet she also claims to have studied piano for over a decade. I saw that last comment and couldn't help but laugh out loud, but that comment flashed by in an instant, quickly drowned in a sea of text. The live stream that day broke 5 million concurrent viewers. The next day, my father summoned me back. With a stern face, he ordered me to merge Lanqing with the Lu family business. For years of studying abroad, and you've learned nothing. You've only been back a few days and already caused this mess. Hand the company back to the family immediately and issue a public apology. I looked at him calmly. Dad, get your facts straight. It was my brother's girlfriend who caused the trouble, not my company. That's because you provoked her first. He slammed the table, his eyes blazing. If you don't listen to me, then consider me as never having had a daughter, I said with a smile. Sorry to break it to you, but you didn't give birth to me. My mother carried me and brought me into this world. Soon after, the Lu and Jiang corporations announced their partnership. The two parties joined forces to target my company, snatching several major projects away from launching. My father publicly declared he was cutting ties with me, saying he has no such venomous daughter. I was nearly splashed with acid by Lin Jiu's extremist fan in the company parking lot. He even secretly conspired with my father to use my breakdown in high school and that diagnosis certificate to have me committed to a psychiatric hospital in this life and the last. You've only ever resorted to these filthy tricks. Then my counterattack is about to begin. Brother, I watched helplessly as I was forced into retreat, utterly powerless to fight back. At this very moment, Lin Jiu had just won her first Best Actress award, and her birthday was also approaching. Lu Xingting threw a grand celebration party in her honor. The venue was lavishly decorated, many of her fans were invited, and the event was even live-streamed online. Dressed in a white cocktail dress, Lin Jiu thanked her fans softly and warmly. Next up was a segment where they would play a video of blessings recorded by her fans on the large screen behind her. An image flashed. It was somewhat blurry, shot from a concealed angle, as if someone had filmed it secretly in the makeup room on set. Another actress was adjusting her makeup in the mirror when Lin Jiu, standing nearby, suddenly bumped into her. Grabbing her hand, she slapped herself across the face with it. Then, under the stunned gaze of the actress, she began to laugh. Who gave you permission to snatch a role I've set my sights on? How dare you even think of having me play your supporting part? Do you have any idea who my boyfriend is? Lu Xingting, the CEO of the Lu Corporation. When my boyfriend sees the marks on my face, you'd better think about how you're going to apologize to me. No, wait. You should be thinking about how you'll make a living after the video of you bullying me on set gets out and your career is over. The final shot was of her staring at the actress's chest, a knowing smile playing on her lips. No, Lin Jiu let out a shriek and lunged forward to block the big screen, but it was futile. The fans at the scene were in an uproar amidst the chaos. The names Lin Jiu and Lu Xingting were skyrocketing onto the trending charts. Hashtag Lin Jiu my boyfriend is Lu Xingting. Hashtag Lin Jiu birthday livestream. Hashtag Lin Jiu getting bullied again. The comment count is skyrocketing. Su Lan sat next to me, frantically typing on her phone. Sis Lin Jiu, how come you get bullied everywhere you go? Is the whole world out to get you? And then it got liked to the top comment. Oh my god. She grabbed someone's hand to hit herself. She really went for it. Her face is all swollen. How else could she prove she was bullied if it wasn't swollen? Don't call her Lin Jiu anymore. Change her name to Lin T. If I remember correctly, she wasn't the original lead actress for the film she won Best Actress for. It was someone else who was quite popular at the time, but then got blacklisted after some private photos were leaked, so you couldn't get the role through the audition. And now you resort to false accusations and spreading malicious rumors. Is that it? Amidst all the chatter, another video started trending. It was filmed at a university abroad, filled with foreigners of all hair and eye colors. They burst into laughter after a Chinese international student spoke, mocking her non-standard pronunciation. The scrawny blonde guy who led the teasing then recited it with perfect enunciation and said, "You know what this is? This is proper received pronunciation, you joker." Then I grabbed him by the collar and punched him in the face. I shot back with a perfectly enunciated insult. What's so damn funny is that how you laughed at your own father's funeral. He flew into a rage, screaming that he wanted to settle this one-on-one. So I punched him right back down. I nudged his chin with the tip of my shoe and smiled. Know what this is? This is real Chinese kung fu, you country bumpkin. The person who posted the video is an ordinary international student. I'm also a girl born in the mountains. When I was born, my grandmother almost threw me into the stove to burn. But unlike Ms. Lin Jiu, there were no pianos in our village, nor any kind benefactor providing a monthly allowance of over 10,000 yuan. There was only me, someone who took nearly 30 years to muster the courage to step out and see the world, only to be mocked on my very first day abroad. I just can't stand people twisting the truth, and I don't want to see those who helped me get slandered like this. The comment section was buzzing with opinions. Wait, am I seeing this right? Is that Lu Xingqi, the one Lin Jiu accused of bullying her and mocking her English pronunciation? Finally, someone said it. What village kid studies piano for over a decade? The story doesn't even add up, yet so many people bought it. Holy shit, she's so damn cool. The sponsor isn't Lin Jiu's sponsor Lu Xingting, Lu Xingqi's own brother. Who's to say he isn't trying to smear his own sister to get a bigger slice of the family fortune? Then there's the video from my 18th birthday, the day I came of age, the surveillance footage from back when Lin Jiu threw herself off the rooftop to secure funding, framing another girl from the orphanage for pushing her. Evidence of Lu Xingting hiring a hitman, not just for the attempted murder of Qin Jilan, too. build up the Liu empire and snatch projects. He and my father secretly committed countless shady deals. I owe getting my hands on all this to my mom. The last one was Jiang Tian. He psychologically manipulated his own birth mother for 7 whole years, driving her to take her own life in front of his biological father. He traded his mother's life for a chance to enter the Jiang family. I poured vast sums of money into pushing all this evidence, pieced together from clues spanning past and present lives, onto the trending lists, one piece at a time thanks to their previous actions. Countless people were already following the developments of this feud. Once criminal activity was involved, the situation exploded into a massive public scandal. The onlookers wasted no time in calling the police. They had no room left to sweep the matter under the rug. Those who try to manipulate public opinion will ultimately be destroyed by it. Are you satisfied with this ending? On the day my father and Liu Xingting were taken away by the police, my mother slapped a divorce agreement on the table. Liu Xingting was in disbelief and roared at her, "Mom, am I not your son too? Why do you favor Liu Xingqi? I'm your child as well. Your father favors you, and I favor your sister." My mother let out a soft sigh, sat down in front of him, and took a sip of black tea. Things in this world have always been fair, haven't they? Those projects that Liu Corp and Jiang Corp snatched from me, the ones they collaborated on, have blown up one after another. They were charged with an additional count of economic crime. I took over the severely weakened Liu group and merged it into Lanxin. I then met with Jiang Shiyue, who had regained control of the Jiang group. She is Jiang Tian's half-sister. Her parents had a marriage of convenience. I hated that woman when I was a child, believing she destroyed my family. It was only later that I realized, if my father hadn't cheated, a person like Jiang Tian would never have existed. In this world, she picked up her coffee cup. Dying at the hands of her own son was her just deserts. I reached out to her a year ago and we agreed to work together. I will help her force Jiang Tian out of Jiang Corp, so she can consolidate all power. The condition is that she must assist me with many resource exchanges here domestically. This includes the current trending topic and public opinion battle, much of which was orchestrated by Jiang Shiyue. Still, I'm curious, how did you figure out his mother's suicide was connected to him? I just smiled and said nothing, because in a past life, he did the same to me. Before the verdict was announced, I made a special trip to the prison to visit some old acquaintances. The first person I saw was my brother. He stared at me intently. I smiled and said, "Don't look at me like that, brother. I know what you want to ask. I've already been through the humiliation of being driven out like a stray dog once. Did you really think I spent all these years abroad just partying and living in luxury during the most exhausting period? I could only manage to catch a few winks of sleep in fragmented moments each day on top of my classes and company duties. I was also busy networking and reaching out to various contacts. I had to dig through the faintest traces from my past life to find evidence of these 3 individuals' misdeeds. The way they did it was so practiced and ruthless. I'm sure it wasn't their first time. Evil people aren't only evil in front of me, in the places I can't see. The darkness they've brought must be far greater. I was right. Liu Xingting, Dad always says I'm not like his daughter. He raised you to be an overbearing tyrant, someone who will stop at nothing to get what you want, with no regard for the law. Thankfully, I'm not like him. The second person I went to see was Lin Jiao. Her hair was disheveled, her gaze weary and haggard even through the glass, her eyes burned with a hatred that could devour me. She could no longer maintain her innocent facade. Hysterically, she demanded to know why I hadn't produced the evidence sooner. If I'd had it all along. Is playing the victim fun? Of course it is. Otherwise, why would you have been doing it for so long? I stood up. Of course, it's only more fun if I let you think you've already won. I could have released all this much earlier, of course, but where's the fun in that? Let her believe she's won a total victory, that she's gained everything. Then, on the eve of dawn, let her watch it all turn to ashes. Before her eyes. I've lived through this in a past life. This time, it's your turn. The last person I went to see was Jiang Tian. To be honest, I never really wanted to see him. Lin Jiao and I have been enemies from the very beginning, while Liu Xingting and I are bound by blood. As for Jiang Tian, after my love for him vanished without a trace, he and I became complete strangers. But the police told me that Jiang Tian wants to see me, and so, separated by a pane of glass, he and I sat down facing each other. He looked at me in silence for a long moment until I stood up with some impatience. "What is it you wanted to see me about?" But that's not how it was at all. He spoke in a low voice. "The Liu family should be mine. We should be engaged." I halted in my tracks and whirled around. He stared fixedly at me, an inscrutable light flickering in his dark pupils as I looked at his face, if not for the faint scar on his forehead. For a fleeting moment I would have thought I was seeing Jiang Tian from a past life. Coming to my senses, I could only feel the absurdity and bitter amusement of it all. Just an engagement. Why not mention what came after? You used me to get everything from the Liu family. and then you and Lu Xingting joined forces to kill me, but, a long, long time later, I came to regret it," he said hoarsely. "It's just that, you'll never know. I truly wish you could know how absurd, how ridiculous. Yes, I'm dead. Of course I don't know." I turned back, braced against the glass, looked at him, and said, word by deliberate word, "But what good would knowing do? Who cares about your regrets this time? I'm the one who wins. You're the one headed for hell, Jiang Tian. You deserve this." Winter came early that year. By the time I left, darkness had already fallen outside. Qin Jilan called to say she would be going abroad after the new year to start a new experiment at a research institute. I said okay, and wished her a safe journey. After hanging up, a message from Su Lan popped up on WeChat saying she was already seated at the hot pot restaurant and told me to hurry over and settle the bill. I replied with a simple okay, smiling as I typed. Outside the car window, a crescent moon hung high in the sky, casting a sliver of light across the ink-black night. Once this night passes, the moon will set, my sun will rise again. The end. Story 2. Everyone says Guziding loves me. After we married, we treated each other with the utmost respect. Then one day, I discovered he had been lavishly supporting his white moonlight on the side. I confronted him, my eyes red with tears. He was actually worried about tarnishing her reputation. "Just have them throw me in the solitary cell. You're free to go." A club struck the iron door, the clang ringing out urgently. The guard stood at the door of the solitary cell, looking at me with contempt. She was just like all the others. She looked down on me, Madame Gu, from the bottom of her heart, struggling to get up. It took me a long moment to realize I had been reborn, I, who had died in that mudslide just like in my past life. Guziding was waiting for me outside the main gate. "Why are you crying?" His handsome eyes and brows came into view. I even remember the joyful sensation of tracing the arch of his brows and the bridge of his nose each night. Having returned from rebirth, I met his gaze, and for a moment, we were both at a loss for words. "I really have been reborn," I sniffled and walked down the steps in silence. Winter in Haishur is truly bitter, so cold it made my heart tremble with sorrow. Guziding instinctively took off his coat and draped it over my shoulders. "Don't catch a chill." A long-lost warmth mingled with the faint, elusive scent of gardenias. I recognized this scent, the soapberry fragrance from Baiji's home. I remember in our past life, when I confronted him, Guziding's once gentle aura gradually turned icy. His eyes held a suppressed fury, on the verge of erupting. "Zhou Yi, I've kept you locked up for 3 days. Haven't you calmed down yet? Can you please stop making a scene?" Back then, my heart was filled with nothing but grievance. Faced with Baiji's provocation, Guziding turned a blind eye. I was left to struggle alone, isolated and helpless, ultimately becoming a laughingstock in everyone's eyes. "Guziding, in this lifetime, you can go ahead and love your white moonlight openly and honestly. I'm not sticking around for this." Fighting desperately to hold back the tears threatening to spill, I stiffly took off my coat, never once mentioning the scent. "You wear it yourself. I'm not cold." Guziding halted in his tracks, taking a long moment to collect himself. Once home, I picked up the kettle and headed to the bathroom for a shower. When I came out, Guziding was, for once, cooking in the kitchen. On the table, 3 simple home-cooked dishes were already prepared. "Have a seat. The soup will be ready in just a moment." Who would have thought that the unattainable idol everyone admires would now be wearing my apron? If I hadn't seen with my own eyes how he defended that woman and publicly ordered me confined to the detention room, I could hardly believe it was the same person. Even after a hot shower, my body was still racked with occasional chills and shivers. The agony of being buried alive by a mudslide, the despair of being abandoned by Guziding. I took a deep breath and told myself, "Zhou Yi, you must be strong. If others don't value you, betray you, or abandon you, then you must love yourself all the more." I served myself a heaping bowl of rice, locked in solitary confinement for 3 days, with no one to look after me. Each day, only 2 meals of steamed buns and rice porridge with pickled vegetables. Guziding set the seaweed soup on the table and froze. I didn't wait for him. I just kept picking up pieces of meat, shoveling rice into my mouth like a starving ghost. He sat down across from me and ladled soup into a bowl. "Take your time. If you like it, we can get more tomorrow." He set the soup down beside me. The clatter of bowls and chopsticks echoed through the house, making the two of us feel like strangers. In the room, after wolfing down dinner, I got up to leave. "Zhou Yi," Guziding called out to me, "we need to talk. There's no need for you to give me the cold shoulder." Guziding was a man of few words with a cool, reserved demeanor. Influenced by his father, he was disciplined, courteous, and accomplished for his age, rarely letting his emotions show. In her early years, after Baiji's father passed away, she left Haishur with her mother, and we lost contact. Years later, I ran into her in The mountains. By then, her own uncle had forced her into marriage with a violent drunkard. No one could fathom the shock and bitter fury Gu Ziding felt in that moment. The proudest girl from our courtyard had, in just a few short years, been left battered and broken by her former husband. When Gu Ziding picked her up, Bai Ji trembled as she curled into his arms. She suffered severe psychological trauma. And with a child to care for, it took me 2 years to help her find stability. I truly don't want her to be hurt again. Perhaps my changed attitude after being reborn is what led Gu Ziding in this life to choose to confide his past to me. The anguish in the man's eyes was unmistakably genuine. He held a tender, protective affection for that woman, one rooted in their shared childhood. I had long given up hope, but seeing my husband moved by another woman with my own eyes, the pain in my soul was beyond heart-wrenching. He would never know that his moment of vulnerability was like a dagger plunged into my heart, leaving the wound raw and mangled. I struggled to steady my breathing, clinging to the last shred of my composure. So, you lock me in the solitary confinement cell. Gu Ziding's breath hitched as he tried to make me understand his predicament. You publicly slandered her as a mistress in front of so many people. Do you have any idea how devastating that is for a single mother? Gu Ziding, you earn 80 yuan a month, you give me 20 and give her 60, and you call this clean and above board? If you love her so much and can't bear to see her wronged, why did you marry me in the first place? What do you even think this family is? To spare her any hurt, you lock your lawfully wedded wife in a detention cell. Do you realize I'll be the laughingstock of the town, get fired from the textile mill with a permanent black mark, and never find work again? The grievances of a past life, penned up for years, finally poured out with each accusatory question. Looking at the man I had loved for half my life, I laughed at myself in despair. Of course you knew, you just didn't care. My vision blurred with tears, trapped in my own grief and gasping for air like a dying fish. The man pulled me into his embrace, and I was enveloped by the distinct, crisp warmth that belonged only to Gu Ziding. He wrapped an arm around my waist, gently rubbing my back, yet he seemed utterly at a loss for what to do. I didn't. Yezi, please don't cry. It's okay if you don't have a job. I'm your husband, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. In my past life, he had said the very same thing. He said he would take care of me for the rest of my life. Back then, I clung to my pitiful pride and turned him down. I stubbornly kept job hunting, but with that disciplinary record, no one would hire me. In the end, battered and bruised, I crawled back home like a stray dog and became a full-time housewife. Gu Ziding didn't mock or look down on me for it. He's actually a really good man, a man of his word. When we got married, he entrusted all of his savings to me without any reservation. Before I knew about Bai Ji, I was truly happy, but after Gu Ziding locked me in a confinement room for another woman and I lost my job, many people started to mock and ridicule me behind Gu Ziding's back. They said I was a toad who had managed to eat swan meat. The most terrifying part is that all those vicious words, to me, were the absolute truth. People in this world aren't afraid of lies clouding their judgment, they fear the truth piercing their hearts. Day after day, I wrestled with my own conscience, until I became a volatile, ignorant shrew, a crude and vulgar person who lashed out at the slightest provocation. The past is too painful to look back on. In this life, I know exactly where my path lies. I wiped my tears, pushed Gu Ziding away, and replied in a low voice, "All right, brother Ziding, is sister-in-law back yet?" When Gu Ziding opened the door, Bai Ji was standing outside wearing a warm, soft yellow cotton-padded jacket with a plum blossom pattern. A fashionable red scarf, the most popular style at the time, was wrapped around her neck, making her oval face appear even more delicate. "It's cold out, come inside." Gu Ziding stepped aside and casually set out a pair of slippers for her. Bai Ji lowered her head with a shy, meaningful smile, her eyes full of affection. I knew exactly why she had come, and watched her performance with a cold sneer. "Brother Ziding, I'm here to return the keys. It's not right for me to keep living in your marital home." Bai Ji looked at me with a hint of apology, the unspoken challenge in her eyes unmistakable. "Sister-in-law seems to have misunderstood us. I should move out for now, so I don't upset her." Gu Ziding was taken aback and instinctively looked at me, yet I had no reaction. A flicker of panic showed in his eyes, his lips parting slightly as if he didn't know how to begin. "Brother Ziding," Bai Ji looked puzzled and asked tentatively, "Sis, don't tell me, you still don't know?" A deathly silence fell over the room. "I'm sorry, I didn't know, Brother Ziding." The woman's eyes instantly welled up with tears, as if she had been deeply wronged. "I'll move out right now and give the house back to you." Gu Ziding grabbed Bai Ji, who was making a move to leave. "Don't be ridiculous, it's the dead of winter. Where do you think you can go with a child?" "Zhou Yi, that house was a gift from my family when I first started working. I've let Aji and her son live there so she could recover from her injury." Watching this star-crossed couple, I had no desire to respond any further. Guzading's face was pale, his eyes clouded with a profound, unknowing confusion, unwilling to look at either of them a moment longer. I stood up to clear away my own bowl and chopsticks. Guzading, I need to focus on my exam preparations from now on. Whatever you do outside, I can't control it, and frankly, I don't want to anymore. Before Guzading could say another word, I had already turned and walked away. Without a backward glance, in 1977, the National College Entrance Examination was reinstated. Back then, life had worn down my edges. I never once thought of changing my fate through education. Given a second chance at life, I want to live differently. No longer willing to drift through my days and a days, I stopped caring about how many women Guzading kept on the side, or how many sons he fathered. As long as we don't get a divorce, he's still obligated to provide for this household anyway. I shut myself in at home all day, devoting myself to my studies. I never ask about his work outside the home. I have no interest in how things are progressing with his white moonlight. I no longer do his laundry. There are plenty of people out there to take care of him. I've stopped with the daily check-ins and sweet nothings. Let that star-crossed pair ask after each other. When he came home, I was usually at my desk, buried in my studies. As the days went by, we stopped talking altogether. Sometimes, I could hear his footsteps pause outside the bedroom door. I could sense him standing there for a long time. He seemed to want to say something to me, yet I refused to turn around. In the end, he had no choice but to leave in silence. Sometimes at night, I study by lamplight at his usual desk. Now he can only read by the bedside, though he never says a word about it. Occasionally, I could sense him leaning against the headboard, not actually reading. He would simply watch me in silence, his gaze profound and inscrutable. Only when I shifted my posture would he look away. Knowing I didn't wish to speak with him, he would write down any necessary daily instructions on a note and leave it on my desk before leaving for work. We still share a bed, but nothing happens between us. I'm so exhausted that I fall asleep as soon as I get into bed after studying. He saw I had dirty laundry and wanted to help me wash it, but he's just not cut out for that sort of thing. My heart sank as I looked at the white shirt, now stained and ruined. It was one of the few new pieces of clothing I owned. He looked upset, like a child who had done something wrong, or someone quietly nursing a hurt. I'm sorry, this is the first time we've spoken in so long. It's fine, I said, reapplying soap to the clothes. Go on, you're busy. I'll wash my own clothes from now on. You don't need to help. Guzading lowered his gaze, watching my figure. Yet I've been right here in this house all along, yet I still sleep beside him. But everything is different from how it used to be. Over the weekend, Luo Jia, drenched in sweat, pounded on my front door. Zhou Yi, the study guides are more expensive than we all expected. The money we pooled together isn't enough. Do you have any left? In this era, reference books are scarce, making them incredibly valuable. With the college entrance exams reinstated, the whole nation's enthusiasm for studying has reached an unprecedented high, now that new materials are out. The bookstores are bound to be packed again. I had originally agreed with a few friends to pool our money and buy one set. I never thought the price would be this steep. Just in time, Guzading's allowance for the month had arrived. It was still 20 yuan, a neat stack of bills placed properly in the bedside drawer. I pulled out the largest bill, a 5 yuan note, carefully tucked it into the lining of my padded coat, hopped on my Phoenix bicycle, and raced off with Luo Jia towards the bookstore. Zhou Yi, over here, Li Meng, waiting in the checkout line, shouted over to me. I was jostled so hard my hat nearly fell off. Finally managing to poke my head up, I saw Guzading standing protectively beside Bai Ji on the staircase above, looking down on the bustling crowd. Hearing my name, they both noticed me, squashed in the crowd with just my head visible. Even I, the one who was cheated on, have to admit they make a perfect-looking couple. Bai Ji's face showed disdain, but I paid it no mind. Standing in the crowded hall, I simply offered them a faint smile. Guzading's breath hitched. He looked at my face, now wearing a smile of complete release, and in his eyes was a sorrow I couldn't comprehend. Zhou Yi, hurry up. Li Meng was nearly pushed out of the front row by the crowd and couldn't help but cry out in anxious desperation. Ignoring the two of them, I took the money from my inner pocket, held it high above my head, and tried to pass it to her through the sea of people. Ouch, watch out. A sudden cry of alarm rang out from the staircase. I turned toward the sound and saw Guzading leap from the stairs, a drop of nearly 2 meters, sending the crowd scrambling back in fright. He was tall and stood out from the crowd like a crane among chickens. The man was caught in the swirling crowd, pushing his way toward me with difficulty. He pulled me into his embrace. I looked down, avoiding his gaze. Excuse me. Guzading's voice was icy. Guzading shielded me as we pushed through the crowded throng. Oh my goodness, finally squeezed my way in. Li Meng playfully saluted Guzading. Thanks, brother Gu. Guzading gave a slight nod in response, managed to get the reference book at last, split 5 ways. It comes to $3.40 each. It was a bit pricey, but everyone's faces were beaming with joy. Unfortunately, there were too many people, and the math materials were already gone. They're on the second floor. Guzading said, there's a cafe on the second floor, but it's pretty pricey, so it's usually pretty quiet in there. Oh, really? The 4 companions turned to Guzading in unison, their eyes alight with barely contained excitement. Without another word, Guzading motioned for everyone to follow him upstairs. Brother Gu, you're like a godsend. Li Meng gave me a playful wink, ignoring her mischievous antics. I quietly followed the others upstairs. Ziding, over here, by the floor-to-ceiling window. A woman with a graceful figure waved with a smile. If it's not Bai Ji, then who else could it be? Her gentle, serene smile could melt the iciest of hearts. All these years, she had been meticulously cared for. Guzading nodded and walked towards Bai Ji. He pulled out the chair, glanced back at me as if waiting for me to sit down. I ignored him and walked around behind him, squeezed in with 4 country bumpkins. Guzading's posture stiffened slightly, his lashes lowered, his thoughts inscrutable to anyone. Oh, Aji, so you're waiting for your crush. A server walked over and teased Bai Ji in a familiar tone. Lovely Zhuing Tai, are you ready to order now? Ding Xiang, don't talk nonsense, Bai Ji chided with a laugh, showing no sign of embarrassment. Luo Jia tilted her head and shot me a look. As longtime sisters, I knew exactly what she meant. What's going on? I could only shake my head at her in resignation. Guzading took in our little exchange, his deep eyes inscrutable. Ding Xiang was tall and slender, a friend of Bai Ji. While we were ordering, she stood chatting with us. As it turned out, it was Bai Ji who had pulled strings with Guzading to help Ding Xiang land a job at the bookstore cafe. Someone sighed with genuine feeling. This place is great, easy work, a nice environment, and good pay. It's so much better than our textile mill. Ding Xiang was quite composed as she served everyone coffee. It's all thanks to Brother Gu's help, she said. Luo Jia leaned in and whispered to me. Last year when I passed by here, I saw they were hiring. They were offering $18 a month. I sniffled and turned my head to look at the scenery outside the floor-to-ceiling window. Feeling cold, Guzading spoke up abruptly. Before I could react, he had already taken off his coat and draped it over my shoulders. Bai Ji's smile stiffened slightly. Ding Xiang was taken aback, casting a strange, appraising look at Gu and Bai. Then, a realization dawned on her. Oh, look at me, she said. We have a stove right here. Ziding, ah Ji. From behind them came the voice of an old man, Professor Yuan. Recognizing the newcomer, both Gu and Bai rose to their feet simultaneously. The others, though unsure of the reason, followed suit, standing up and bowing in greeting. All right, everyone please be seated. Mr. Yuan took his seat at the head of the table. Looking at the graceful young woman Bai Ji had become, he was overcome with emotion. My dear girl, your father's situation held you back all those years ago. Now that the national college entrance exams have been reinstated, you must make the most of this opportunity. Tears welled up in Bai Ji's eyes. She had indeed endured many hardships in the past few years. Thank you for your concern, teacher. Brother Ziding has been a great help to me all these years. Old Mr. Yuan nodded with satisfaction. You two grew up together in the same courtyard. Now that he's made something of himself, it's only right that he looks after you. A flicker of emotion passed through Bai Ji's eyes as she shot me a discreet glance. I missed out on a lot of schooling back then. Even though Brother Ziding has been tutoring me for a year, he's always worried I'll push myself too hard. He suggested I wait another year and take the exam next time. I knew Bai Ji was trying to provoke me, to make me lose my composure and embarrass myself. She wanted to show the world how unreasonable I was, to prove I wasn't good enough for Guzading. That old trick of hers used to work every single time, but now, I couldn't care less. Besides, I already saw what she's talking about in the college entrance exam honor roll coverage in my past life. With Guzading's meticulous care and help, Bai Ji studied for 2 years and successfully got into university. She became the pride of Haishur. She stood at the awards ceremony, radiant and captivating. As an outstanding representative, she took the stage to deliver a speech, effusively thanking the person who had walked with her out of the darkness. I was not qualified to enter the venue, but I saw her photo and interview in the newspaper. The reporter asked if she was going to Peking University or Yenching University. In that photo, the dazzling woman stood on a high platform, gazing affectionately at the man seated in the front row. I will stay in Haishur for university. This is not only my hometown, but also where the person I love is. In the future, I want to work alongside him to build a better future for our hometown. I seemed to hear applause coming from all directions, thundering towards me. so deafening it made my eardrums ache standing there with Guzading. She was the perfect match that everyone unanimously praised. Feeling utterly listless, I picked up my coffee and took a slow, deliberate sip. Bitter, so bitter, add some sugar, Guzading reminded me in a low voice, picking up a sugar packet to sweeten my drink. Teacher Yuan paused her conversation, looking with confusion at her usually aloof student, who was being so attentive to a woman. He then asked, Ziding, who is this? Guzading very naturally took my hand. Professor, this is my partner, Comrade Zhou Yi. Bai Ji's face turned ashen. I was completely baffled. In my past life, I never even thought about the college entrance exam, so naturally, I'd never been here, never met this old man, and certainly never experienced Guzading introducing someone with such solemn formality. But I couldn't be rude in front of a senior, so I had no choice but to respond. Hello, Professor Yuan, my name is Zhou Yi. Oh, I see, said Mr. Yuan, adjusting his glasses with a kindly expression. Xiao Yi, are you planning to take the college entrance exam too? Mr. Yuan understood. Ziding, those 2 sets of study materials you ordered from me earlier, they were for Aji and Xiao Yi, weren't they? Guzading nodded. Well, you're all good kids, Mr. Yuan pointed to the 2 stacks of reference books on the counter, the very set we had all been queuing up to buy today. I've already got the books ready for you. Remember to take them with you when you leave, study hard at home, and if there's anything you don't understand, come and ask me. With the math books secured, everyone was delighted. I stared blankly at the 2 stacks of documents, one on the left, one on the right, neatly arranged. Guzading never told me he had reserved these materials for me. Setting Bai Ji aside, he's genuinely been very good to me, but this divided, compartmentalized kindness is exactly what leaves me feeling insecure. I just can't accept this. Honestly, I never minded Guzading helping others, it's part of his job and duty, but when it comes to Bai Ji, I've always felt Guzading's heart is biased. The earthy, metallic scent flooded my mind again, as if to remind me of the humiliation and despair I felt when Guzading abandoned me. My limbs went weak all at once, and a chill washed over my entire body. Sensing the hand he was holding trembling uncontrollably, Guzading turned to look at me in surprise and gave it a gentle, reassuring squeeze. Teacher Yuan is asking which school you plan to apply for. Noticing something was off with me, Guzading lowered his voice with concern. Are you feeling unwell? I shook my head and apologized to Mr. Yuan. With so many applicants this year, I'm just going to give it a shot. I'll go wherever I get in, and if I don't, it's no big deal. I'll try again next year. Xiao Yi, aren't you planning to stay in Haisher for your studies? Li Meng was puzzled. After all, when faced with Mr. Yuan's question just now, Bai Ji's answer was, because the person I love is here, I want to stay close to him. In the eyes of Li Meng, who cherishes romance, such a statement was incredibly romantic. I want to leave this place. I took a deep breath, struggling to suppress the painful memories from my past life. I studied so hard because I wanted to get out of this place. Guzading held my hand, his grip trembling almost imperceptibly. When we parted, I went straight home. Guzading still had to go back to the office to finish some work. Bai Ji found an excuse to walk with him on the way. Luo Jia, pedaling her bicycle, turned her head to ask me, you two still haven't made up? Huh, no way. A dreamy smile spread across Li Meng's face. Didn't you see how Brother Gu vaulted down the stairs to shield GZ? It was so cool. Luo Jia rolled her eyes. Yeah, your crush is just the best, isn't he? Li Meng ignored the teasing, happily agreeing, of course he is. Yezi, I think that Bai guy has some designs on your man, you should keep an eye out. Luo Jia offered this well-meaning reminder. I gave a bitter smile. They were clearly smitten with each other. I was just a placeholder, the nominal Mrs. Gu. Paying attention to this was nothing but a recipe for heartache. I'm planning to get a divorce. Screech. Luo Jia slammed on the brakes, the sudden stop nearly throwing her from her seat. Divorce. They both exclaimed in unison. In this day and age, divorce is no easy matter. Marriage is meant to be for life. Who doesn't just grit their teeth and make do for a lifetime? Passers-by on the street stared at the two overly dramatic girls, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and bemusement. I pedaled my bicycle at a steady, unhurried pace. The two exchanged a glance, then caught up to me. On the asphalt road, they flanked me, one on each side. Zhou Yi, explain yourself, I sighed, gazing at the warm winter sun ahead. Once I get into university, I'm divorcing Gu. Ziding, why? Li Meng was puzzled. In her eyes, Guzading was the perfect male idol, and she couldn't understand what more I could possibly want. After my time in solitary, a lot of things became clear to me. Guzading cares about Bai Ji, and that drove me mad with insecurity. Rather than becoming someone I'd despise, It was better to walk away, maybe I'd be better off without them. I thought I was over it, but every time this comes up, my chest still aches. I know I'm running away from my feelings for Guzading. I'm a coward, and worse, a failure, but in my past life, I tried, I fought, even though I lost completely. I can't blame fate or anyone else in this life. I admit it's cowardice that makes me choose to back down from the challenge. At least it lets me keep some dignity. Hasn't all this been thoroughly investigated already? Li Meng stood up for Guzading. He's just helping that widow and her child. Brother Gu has helped others before, hasn't he? He's such a good man. Zhou Yi, how can you bear to do this? Luo Jia looked at me with a face full of concern. Yezi, Guzading is caring for others out of a sense of duty. The organization would never approve of you divorcing him over this. My mind is made up. It doesn't matter if you don't agree. Once I get into university, I won't be coming back. For years of long-distance separation, there will always be a way to get a divorce if that's what we want. By then, no one's pride will be hurt. How can you be so heartless all of a sudden? Li Meng asked, unable to believe it. Haven't you noticed? Every time we go out, Brother Gu pays special attention to you, while you're the one who's cold and distant. It was the same today. Li Meng's eyes welled up. If you get a divorce over this, it would be so unfair to Brother Gu. Back then, Li Meng's house wall collapsed, her father's leg was crushed, and her mother ran off with another man. The beautiful girl went everywhere trying to raise money, but her former suitors either looked embarrassed or simply turned a blind eye. At the hospital, Guzading saw the girl weeping bitterly. Even though they were strangers at the time, he paid her medical bills, personally organized the repair of her house, and even helped her find a stable job to get back on her feet. Li Meng, who was never afraid to love or hate, mustered all her courage and decided to confess her feelings to Guzading, who was single at the time. But that night, Guzading gently turned her down. Li Meng knew she wasn't good enough for Guzading, but she still refused to give up hope. Brother Gu, you're so outstanding. You must have a lot of girls confessing to you, right? Guzading was taken aback, offering no clear response. My family isn't well off, but I'm beautiful. I know you're still single. I'm not asking for marriage. I'd be content just being your girlfriend. Li Meng had pursued others and been pursued countless times herself, but this was undoubtedly her bravest attempt yet. Guzading refused without a moment's hesitation. Later, at the textile mill, Li Meng and I became close friends. With her usual candor, she shared the story of that ill-fated romance with Luo Jia and me, back when neither of us had even met Guzading. She was so passionate and brave, loving with such an open heart. After being rejected, she was sad for a couple of days, then simply let it go, as if no trouble was worthy of occupying her mind for more than 3 days. No one knew how. That night, the girl who always seemed so effortlessly graceful in matters of love, fled into the rain, utterly heartbroken and lost. Guzading reached out and grasped the slender figure amidst the torrential downpour. He held an umbrella over her, shielding her beneath it as he escorted her back to her new home. Guzading said, "You are worthy, even if others turn you away. You must learn to cherish yourself." Li Meng simply couldn't believe that someone like him would ever make a fundamental mistake. Luo Jia grabbed the front of my bike, bringing our little group to a halt. "Yezi, we're sisters. Whatever you do, we'll respect your choice." "Luo Jia," Li Meng cried out urgently. Luo Jia said gently, "But you need to think it through. Marriage isn't a game. Don't act on impulse." I pressed my lips together, but in the end, I spoke up. "I'm not being impulsive. We're husband and wife, yet he can't make me feel secure. Every day, I'm filled with dread and anxiety because of this. Ever since I decided to give up on this marriage, I've realized I don't have to be a shrew. I can live a peaceful life." Li Meng was right. I might lose a good man because of this, but I can finally be my true self again. In the days that followed, as I prepared for the exam, the world gradually grew calm without any expectations. I actually get along much better with Guzading. I can no longer hear the sarcastic taunts of others, and I can finally stop screaming myself hoarse, arguing for his sake. That past life was like a nightmare, now gone with the passage of time. 7 months later, the college entrance exam results were released, and I finally got the admission I had been hoping for. Bai Ji was competing with me, taking the college entrance exam in the same year. She scored better than I did, but didn't achieve the exceptionally outstanding results she had in her previous life. As expected, she chose Haida University. As for me, I chose to head for the warmer south. The organization department convened a citywide commendation assembly. This time, I was also invited to attend. A man on crutches delivered a speech as an exemplary representative. Finally came the awards ceremony, met with a long, unending round of applause from the audience. Based on the rankings, I stood in the very last row. Guzading walked over to me, holding the certificate. Congratulations. His voice was cold and detached, low and restrained. I avoided his gaze, took the certificate, and examined it carefully, a smile of genuine relief, the first one since my rebirth, finally spread across my face. Guzading gazed at me, his eyes brimming with tightly reined emotion. He didn't move until the girl holding the tray whispered a reminder. With everything settled, I began making preparations for my trip south. To my surprise, Madame Gu chose that very moment to pay a visit. Xiao Yi, can't you just stay at Haida University? Gu's mother was a truly remarkable woman. She has always been very kind to me. You two have been married for less than 2 years, and you don't have any children yet. If you go, you won't see each other for half a year. You really need to think this through. Gu's mother had no idea our marriage was already over in all but name. How could we possibly let you live alone in another city if you were to get pregnant while studying? After thinking it over for a long time, I decided to seize this opportunity to say what needed to be said. Mom, the truth is, Mom, it's fine. Guzading cut me off abruptly, leaving me momentarily stunned. I'll handle the arrangements. Xiaoye's studies come first, and I'll be careful about the whole baby situation. Mrs. Gu shook her head disapprovingly. How can you just be careful about something like this? What if there's an accidental pregnancy? What's your plan then? I'll file a transfer request then, so I can go to Nanchur and take care of her. I was puzzled. The man averted his gaze, and despite his seemingly composed expression, a hint of unease was faintly visible. Mrs. Gu had never favored her son over others. After just a moment's consideration, she thought it was a workable plan. Now that's more like it. What job could possibly be more important than your own wife? Gu's mother was overjoyed. Xiao Yi, you heard that, right? Now that he said it, you can focus on your studies with peace of mind. Your father and I won't worry so much anymore. We just hope you two will be happy together. My eyes grew slightly red, and I was at a loss for words. Guzading saw his mother out, and the words about wanting a divorce were stuck in my throat. Honestly, now is not the right time to bring up divorce. Forget whether the organization would approve. The very act of abandoning my spouse right after securing my own position would earn me nothing but public scorn for being ungrateful. Realizing this couldn't be rushed, I decided to set the matter aside for the time being. In mid-August, I finally boarded a green train, ready to leave this city behind. With the flood season approaching, Ziding was swamped with work, often staying at the office late into the night. I hinted that he should pay attention to the slope reinforcement around the Ogura mountain area. He's always been diligent with his work and agreed to send someone to survey it. Guzading asked if I needed him to deliver it to Nanchur. I shook my head, indicating it wasn't necessary. He handed me the passbook from the drawer. The day after our wedding, he entrusted me with the family's entire savings, which included 1,500 yuan he had saved up in his early years. I didn't accept it. In the profound silence of the deep night, Guzading carefully took my hand and held it quietly throughout the night. I pretended to be fast asleep, unaware, gazing into the pitch-black night and listening to the evening breeze. At our parting, I hugged Li Meng and Luo Jia goodbye. I said my farewells to Guzading. University life was tough, brilliant, and hectic. Every month, I would receive a letter from Guzading, which included 20 yuan for living expenses for a college student. That's a small fortune. Once, my roommate saw me opening it and became even more envious of how caring and capable my partner is. I just smiled without a word, carefully putting all the money away. Now, I juggle my studies with tutoring and assisting my professor with research. I earn 8 yuan a month, and by living frugally, I can manage to support myself. Occasionally, a red leaf or a winter plum blossom would be pressed between the pages of the letter. On the stationery, a line of neat, elegant fountain pen script read, "The maple leaves back home have turned red," or "A single winter plum blossom by the door," or perhaps, "Mom and Dad are well, don't worry about us." Sometimes, I also receive letters from Luo Jia and Li Meng. Thanks to teacher Yuan's tutoring, Luo Jia managed to get into Shanghai University in this life as well. Li Meng didn't make the cut and continues to work at the textile mill. The two of them occasionally write to share amusing anecdotes with me. For instance, Luo Jia wrote with disdain. Half a month into the new semester, the school held a campus star competition, and Bai Ji took first place. Or take Li Meng, who indignantly fumed. Bai Ji has been thriving at Haida University by riding on Guzading's coattails. There are even rumors that she's his lover and that they have a very well-behaved son together. I no longer cared much. Time flew by, and before I knew it, the year was drawing to a close. It was my first winter break at university, and most of my classmates had already left campus. I submitted a request to stay in the dorm to my academic advisor. After it was approved, I wrote a letter home. My studies are too demanding. I won't be going home for the winter break. Winters in the south are milder than in the north. During the new year, The streets are decked out with lanterns and decorations. It's incredibly lively. On New Year's Eve, I was alone in my dormitory, needing Doe, the attendant from the security office, shouted from downstairs for me to come take a phone call. It was Goo's mother calling. "You silly child, if Sitting hadn't come home for New Year's today, I wouldn't have even known you weren't back. Are you doing all right out there all by yourself?" Through the phone, I could hear the booming bursts of fireworks in the distant sky. "I'm doing all right," I sniffled, my breath forming a white cloud in the air. "And how about you all? Are you keeping well, Mom? Look at the fireworks outside, they're so beautiful." A child's clear, bright voice came through the phone. I froze for a moment. It was Baiji's child's voice. So Guzading has already brought his mistress home for the new year. In these moments of family reunion, one's emotions are always particularly fragile. I know I've already walked away from this love story that was never mine, but my heart still aches so much I can barely breathe. Why couldn't you have cared just a little, even the tiniest bit, about how I felt? I have to go. My eyes stung. I lifted my head and stared blankly at the dormitory building in the distance, its windows dotted with only a few scattered lights. The frigid air stabbed into my lungs, bringing tears to my eyes. The phone in the guardhouse rang urgently. The operator answered and learned it was the commanding officer's family again, insisting on dragging me back. "I say, comrade, how can you hang up without finishing your sentence? Whatever the disagreement, you shouldn't be giving your elders a hard time during the new year, right?" I had no choice but to pick up the receiver, my voice hoarse. "Hello, Xiao Yi. Don't get the wrong idea, Mrs. Gu was a sharp woman. She figured out in an instant why I had hung up so abruptly. She shot a reproachful look at the culprit and handed the phone to Guzading. "You explain it yourself, Mrs. Gu had someone escort Bai Ji and her son to the dining room. She told Guzading to use this opportunity to have a proper talk with me." After a long silence, I stomped my feet to ward off the cold, guessing that Gu's mother was probably away from the phone. I said, "Let's hang up, Zhou Yi." Guzading suddenly called out my name. She came to visit my father with the child on her own. My father insisted she stay for dinner. I didn't know. I rubbed my eyes as tears fell despite my efforts. Hang up. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, I saw Guzading. He had traveled for 20 hours on a slow, old-fashioned green train, looking weary from the long journey. "What are you doing here?" We stood facing each other at the entrance to the women's dormitory of Nanjing University. "I came to see you." Guzading had lost weight, exuding a fragile, weary air. He had to go back to work on the 4th day of the new year, so time was short. "Show me around your school." Guzading took the scarf from around his own neck and wrapped it around mine. It carried the faint, clean scent of soap and kapok blossoms from home. I led the way, beginning to tell him about the university's long history and pointing out the various buildings. This was the most I had spoken to him since my rebirth. Guzading listened intently, his gaze frequently resting on my profile. We went to the campus canteen and got some dumplings. The cafeteria lady who stayed on campus recognized me. Holding her ladle, she widened her eyes and asked, "Where did you find such a handsome man?" I didn't know how to respond. Guzading, however, was perfectly at ease. "I'm Yezi's husband," he said. "Thank you for looking after her." The campus of Nanjing University is vast. Tired from walking, we just found a bench by the lake to sit down. I gazed at the lake, speechless. Guzading, exhausted, slumped against my shoulder and fell asleep. When he left, I didn't go to see him off. As we parted, I told him, "I know you're busy with work. Don't come see me anymore. It's too much trouble for you." Without waiting to see his reaction, I turned and walked away quickly. "I'm not that strong. I don't want to take that gamble." Guzading still sent me 20 yuan for living expenses every single month, without fail. When I didn't even go home during my sophomore winter break, Luo Jia and Li Meng knew I was dead serious. Li Meng sent me a thick stack of letters, essentially calling me a heartless, petty, and vindictive person. She said that political commissar Gu knew everything. She had secretly told him everything the very next day after I shared my divorce plans with them. That day, Guzading thanked her with his usual gentlemanly grace, yet he remained standing alone in that spot for a long time. For a man of such striking and upright bearing, he looked utterly unsteady. Li Meng questioned me over and over. "Zhou Yi, how could you be so heartless? Zhou Yi, do you have any idea how many people envy you? Why can't you just appreciate what you have?" Looking at the last sentence, blurred by tears, I couldn't help but sigh. That silly girl actually cried. Li Meng is a friend worth keeping close. I think I really need to have a proper talk with her. Li Meng, my dear friend, I hope this letter finds you well. I had a dream once. In the dream, after I was released from solitary confinement, I chose to forgive Guzading. After losing my job, I was stuck at home, consumed by the daily grind and drifting further and further away from society. Yet, Bai Ji kept reappearing in my marriage. Each time, just like that day at the bookstore in front of all our friends, she would deliberately act ambiguously with Guzading, while privately provoking and infuriating me. Guzading said she had been through trauma and told me to be the bigger person, or rather, he habitually chose to let me be the one who suffered just as he could lock me in the detention room to protect Baiji. I dreamed that my life became a complete mess because of it. Meanwhile, under Guzading's care, Baiji took his advice, took the college entrance exam the following year, and achieved excellent results I dreamed of. Her on the awards podium, telling everyone that the reason she chose to stay in Haishur was because the person she loved was here. I even dreamt that years later, Baiji and I were buried together beneath Shaotsung Mountain by a mudslide triggered by a torrential downpour, and Guzading led his team, choosing to rescue Baiji instead. From the moment I left that solitary confinement cell, I was already a dead woman in Guzading's eyes, abandoned and buried by the mudslide. Li Meng couldn't make sense of my letter. She wanted to argue, I can't condemn Guzading to death just because of a dream. Luo Jia, who had been reading the letter nearby, stopped Li Meng from her furious writing. Can't you see, even though none of the things Yezi mentioned have actually happened, they all carry implications. It's only natural for her to have these concerns. She even analyzed it coolly. If it weren't for competing with Yezi, I think given Baiji's personality, she would have taken Guzading's advice and taken the exam the following year. Yezi's dream wasn't unfounded, since Baiji dared to say such explicit things right in front of us to provoke Yezi. She could certainly stand on stage and say them in front of everyone. Even for Shaotsung Mountain, the survey team assessed that there was a risk of mudslide disasters. The troops have been reinforcing and repairing it all a year. In the end, this letter was delivered into Guzading's hands by Luo Jia, and Guzading was even more brilliant than Luo Jia. Not long after, I received a call from Guzading's mother. Guzading was gravely ill. Mrs. Gu's voice was hoarse. For the past few years, Zading has practically buried himself in his work, but I know he's been miserable. Mrs. Gu pleaded, Xiaoyi, can you really not come back? I clenched my jaw and didn't relent. Mrs. Gu was choked with sobs. Zading is deeply influenced by his father and his work. He never speaks his mind, but I'm his mother. And I know that boy truly cares for you. On your wedding day, his hands were trembling with nerves. How could he not love you? He's always been a boy with a mind of his own. I know of several girls who confessed their feelings to him, and he turned every single one down without a second thought. If he didn't love you, he would never have agreed to marry you. After I failed to care for the seriously ill Guzading, I was inundated with letters over the winter break. They accused me of being ungrateful and unworthy of being a wife. The leadership called to check in on my studies and life. The main point was still to advise me that no matter how important my studies are, I should also make time for my family. It wasn't until Li Meng tearfully told me that Guzading had stopped eating and drinking, and that Luo Jia had rushed to the hospital and slapped him across the face. So you're just going to lie here like a living corpse? She's gone. Aren't you going to go after her and bring her back? What kind of man are you? Do you really need to be taught these things? Half a month later, I received a letter from Guzading. All is well. Please don't worry. Don't be concerned about the organization's inquiries. I only wish for my wife's safety and health. The brushstrokes lack their former vigor, as if written in the wake of a serious illness, yet the handwriting carries a deeper weariness. I know he couldn't have written this in his current state. Mrs. Gu did not blame me for my coldness. How could she have been unaware of the situation with Baiji? Once Guzading's condition stabilized, she was finally able to set her mind at ease. In fact, she would often call to check in on how I was doing and how my studies were going. She is a truly remarkable mother. In the summer of his junior year, Guzading was exceptionally promoted after passing the political vetting, due to his outstanding work performance and excellent reputation among the people. When I heard the news, I was momentarily stunned. I was well aware of this promotion initiative. This crucial document for cultivating young cadres was handled with the utmost secrecy. Nominations and reviews were conducted privately by senior leadership, and it wasn't until the final list was published that anyone even knew about it. However, in my past life, Guzading's name was conspicuously absent from that final roster. It suddenly reminded me of when I was in the confinement room, and the captain had hinted at something in vague terms. Even baseless rumors, when exploited by those with ill intent, can cause serious damage to one's reputation. I was stunned. I never imagined that my constant meddling in my past life had truly held Guzading back so much, yet he never once mentioned to me that he had failed the selection. During that period, we even went back to the main family estate. Back then, Mr. Gu flew into a towering rage. Guzading was slapped hard across the face with a crimson smear at the corner of his mouth. He told me to leave first. Xiaoyi, our family isn't like ordinary families. There are many things Mom, after being lectured by his father, Guzading came out of the study. He cut off Mrs. Gu, took my hand, and we left the Gu residence. We're heading out now, let Dad know for us. So that's how it is. That explains everything. I sat there on the stool, motionless. As the world around me faded into silence that night, I thought long and hard throughout this marriage. I had blamed Guzading for all my resentment and dissatisfaction. He was at fault, but I know I have my own shortcomings. To this day, I still can't get over the fact that he abandoned me when I needed saving. Yet I also know that he showed me tolerance and made sacrifices for me. Perhaps our paths just weren't meant to cross completely. I set aside my lingering attachments and picked up the pen to write this year's first reply. Upon hearing of your transfer, I congratulate you on this achievement. Reflecting on the past fills me with regret and shame. Though mountains and rivers lie between us, I wish you to take good care. Guzading declined the offer from the capital and requested a transfer to the southern city. His superior, valuing his talent, offered to help arrange matters with the school, but Guzading politely declined. He didn't want to cause me any trouble. Mrs. Gu was overjoyed, feeling her son had finally come to his senses. You're better than your father. Work is important, but you've got to live your life too. Mr. Gu had no objections. He was immensely proud that his son had earned his promotion through his own abilities. I didn't bring up divorce at this critical juncture. I knew how hard he had worked to get where he was. His future was bright, and his personal conduct and family life couldn't afford even the slightest blemish. Guzading showed me around his newly assigned apartment in Nanchur, which was more than twice the size of his old family compound. There was even a small garden on the ground floor, planted with orange trees, cucumbers, and tomatoes. Comrade Zhou, I'm sorry. The man stood beneath the orange tree, the dappled shadows falling across his sharply defined face. I put you through so much pain. After reading your letter to Li Meng, I had a nightmare about the Tsongshan mudslide. I finished rescuing people in the hardest hit zone and began a grid search. In the end, I dug up your body from a collapsed section. Guzading's hands trembled uncontrollably, as if recalling the heart-wrenching agony from his dream, his hands torn and bloodied from digging. In the dream, you watched me go save others, thinking I had abandoned you. The man's voice choked with emotion. I didn't know you were there. I didn't know Baiji was in the disaster zone. I didn't abandon you. You were in a fragile state back then, and I was under political review. I had no choice but to keep you at home. But I had no idea someone took advantage of my absence to use Baiji to provoke you. The truth is, after I sent her to university, aside from providing living expenses and a place to stay, I never had anything to do with her again. I desperately wanted to stay silent, or to say with feigned indifference, it doesn't matter anymore. Guzading, I've let it go, but I couldn't pull it off. I died in the torrential rain, buried by a mudslide, my heart filled with bitter resentment for the one I loved who had abandoned me. After my rebirth, no matter how nonchalantly I pretended to be, I could not deny that this lingering grudge had stolen all genuine joy from my smile. Thank you for the clarity. Guzading, my trapped soul finally found true release, but there's no future for us. 26. Baiji side story. Before Guzading came to Nan City, Baiji had sought him out. She couldn't believe her ears. Are you really giving up the transfer to Beijing for Zhou Yi? Guzading's calmness was terrifying. She is my wife. Where she is where I belong. Brother Ziding, do you truly not know what's in my heart for you? Tears streamed down the woman's face, her eyes rimmed red. If it weren't for the family tragedy all those years ago, Aji, I turned you down when we were young. I thought I made myself perfectly clear back then, but I can't help how I feel. Baiji wept as if her heart were breaking. Guzading's kindness towards her, ever since he saved her, had always made her feel there was still a chance. Guzading, you are like the sun in the sky, illuminating my life. We were meant to be together. Baiji leaned in to kiss him, but Guzading took a step back. Baiji. Guzading's expression was cold and stern. You've always had a strong sense of pride since you were a child. That's why I've never embarrassed you in front of others. But in private, I've reminded you of this many times. I promised your father, Uncle Bai, and teacher Yuan that I would take good care of you. After all you've been through, I understand you need someone to lean on, a respectable place to stand, but you shouldn't have provoked Zhou Yi. She's the one I love. Baiji collapsed to the floor, laughing hysterically. The one you love, she's already left you. You were at death's door, and she didn't even come to see you. Ha ha ha. Do you really think you still have a future together? All she got in reply was Guzading's retreating back. Guzading left the marital home to her, and she was free to live there indefinitely. He even kept his original promise. Until she graduated from university, he would continue to provide her with a monthly allowance of 60 yuan. To others, These things represented substantial material support, but for someone like Guziding, it was merely a helping hand within his means. Guziding never changed, but Baiji finally came to her senses, realizing she truly couldn't get anything more from him. Later, I heard from Luo Jia that during her senior year, Baiji got very close to a married foreign professor in order to secure an opportunity to study abroad as an exchange student. When the professor's wife found out, she stormed into a university lecture hall and beat them both so badly they ended up in the hospital. The professor, in his 50s, swore to defend his freedom to love and promptly divorced his wife. The whole thing caused a huge uproar at the school. Baiji's reputation was in tatters. Some students were ashamed to share